Hi, this is Kylie Coo. Welcome to my studio. This is Wild Positivity, and the prompt this time is intuition. Now, I don't know why I picked intuition. Again, one of these words that I set down way back at the beginning of the year. And as I sat down today, I wasn't quite sure how to approach this page, so I just did it in the usual way. I just approached it intuitively. And initially I felt like just gluing down some collage. So I start off here just using a glue stick. It wasn't terribly sticky, so I end up switching to a gel matte medium, just to make sure I get the pieces right down and in place. So intuition, I think, is very complex, and I certainly can't do the subject matter justice in the time that this video will take. It has different meanings depending on whether you look at philosophy, psychology, and I guess when I sat down to do my page, I was thinking about it from a very personal point of view, what intuition means to me. And I suppose that's simply about sometimes knowing when something is right or knowing when something's wrong, but without actually sitting down and working out the pros and cons or kind of having some rational thought around it. It's just that feeling, sometimes referred to as a gut feeling. And I suppose we describe it as a gut feeling rather than, kind of something in the brain, because for me it isn't necessarily rational. It is about sensing something, sensing when something's right, sensing when something's wrong. And I suppose the thing about intuition is it's whether or not you act on it. And I think sometimes we can feel things intuitively through intuition, but we don't always act on it because sometimes we are looking to try and take a rational decision, one that we think about consciously rather than perhaps subconsciously or unconsciously. So I guess that's how I approached my entire page today. There was nothing rational about the approach. There's nothing rational about how it ended up, but I just went with my intuition today. So I stuck down a few pieces of collage, and then I dried it off and picked up a pencil, just a standard kind of HB sketching pencil. And what came to me was the need to draw a kind of head and shoulders. And I just spent a bit of time sketching this. Because I had a gesso down, a clear gesso down on the page is quite grainy, and I actually liked the way that the pencil felt against the kind of roughness of that gesso. Didn't give too much thought to the detail, just wanted to kind of get this person down. And I had absolutely no idea how this would work out. So I was basically sketching in an outline of the eyes, the nose and the mouth. It's not terribly clear there because some of it's on top of that piece of envelope that I'd stuck down as collage. And I then pulled out some colours. This is deemed to be a flesh colour, whether it's flesh or not I don't know. Naples yellow, I wanted to mix some of that in. And I was just going to start to put some colour on the face and upper body just by mixing those two together. I didn't particularly like the colour as it came out, but I just kept going with it because I felt that this wasn't so much about an accurate representation as it was more about just kind of working through what needed to come out. Again, it was about intuition. So I take some of this cadmium red hue and add a bit of that in. I've no idea how these are going to sit together, but I just felt like doing this. And at this stage I quite liked the way that just started to add that little tinge of I guess, a kind of pink to it. Obviously starting to block out some of the collage, but that's fine. I could still see it slightly underneath. It was slightly wrinkling as I worked on top of it, so I knew it was going to leave texture, and I was fine with that. Then felt the need to start to put some of that same colour, but that deeper with the cad red, onto the hair. Just working very roughly. It's quite an old rough brush. It was the same brush that I used to glue things down, and kind of almost scrubbing it at times. That's just what the page called for. At this point I felt that I needed to add similar colours into the background, so I just put down that flesh and the Naples yellow, and I just take this slightly bigger brush, put some water on it, and just basically start to drag it up and down the page and then across the page. I was feeling anything at this point. It was just a need to get colour across the whole background. And then you'll see that I start to drag the brush across the hair. So there's still colour there, and there was something about the way that then started to blend into the background, and the character started to go into the background a bit, that just felt right to me. So I kept going with that. I'd added a bit more water to get more of a kind of wash effect. And then I go back across to the other page and start to add in that other colour. And just trying to get right to the edges of the page. So I guess in one sense this surprised me. You know, if I'd thought rationally about it, I might not have done this. But it felt right, and here I'm just dotting more of that cad red on, and again I just start to pull it down, pull it across, just blending it out, blending it into the other paint that's there. So in some senses this was just about being free on the page, just painting intuitively. Add a bit more of the Naples yellow in. And there was something about just enjoying these brush strokes with no rhyme or no reason. Just enjoying the brush and the paint on the page. So I dry it off again, because by this point the paint is fairly thick. And at this point I pick up my pencil again and I start to bring the person back out just by using the pencil. And I'm still picking up a bit of that graininess from the gesso that's now under a couple of thin layers of paint. But there's something about the way that the pencil is on the page that just feels right. So I start to put the features in again, and I don't get them exactly right in terms of the symmetry of it. I don't think the nose is in the right position, I don't think the mouth's right, but that didn't matter. So I put in some eyebrows, and then I decide that rather than doing open eyes, I would do closed eyes. In the first sketch, the eyes were, I was going towards having them open, but suddenly what felt right was having them closed. And just drawing in some strands of hair. And at this point it felt right that she had come back into the foreground just a little bit from that background. So decided to bring back in more of those same colours, and I start to work on the hair. starting to almost paint in individual strands. Now, of course, I'm continuing to work with the same 3 colours, so they're not always showing up very clearly against the background, but they are there. And I work away at this for a while. And I think, to be honest, it was almost meditative doing this. I didn't know where she was going to take me, but it was just about putting on these kind of short strokes most of the time. There's a few longer ones, but mainly just these little short strokes. I add a bit more of the Cad Red to my palette and then start to use it in a bit more detail. Again, a mixture of long and short strokes on the hair. And then back to a lighter colour. Back to the Naples yellow, or a mix of the Naples yellow and that flesh colour, I think. And again, no rhyme or reason to the way that I was doing this. It was just what was coming to me intuitively. I decided here to start to add a bit of colour to the face, and perhaps at this point I had moved away from thinking about doing it intuitively and thinking more about what would I do next on the face, and actually I don't like it. So you'll see that what I do is I get my brush laden with water, and actually start to lift the paint that way. And I lift that with a rag. Again, just going over the features with the pencil. A little bit of shading with the pencil. It felt like all she needed was pencil rather than additional colour. The paint on the hair was largely dry at this point. Still had a little bit of dampness, but it didn't feel right to me. So I took some water on that big brush again and just started to go all over her, lifting some of the colour, some of that just hadn't quite dried. And again I go back to adding a bit more of that yellow. It was as if she needed to go back into the background a bit. And just dabbing that off, dabbing some of it off anyway, just the excess. And then I give it another dry. And then it was a case of going back with the pencil, just once again going over the main features. Then just taking this calligraphy pen with a chisel end, and I'll write my word. By this point, this page was feeling like a contemplative piece, as if just thinking through what intuition means. And I think that's why she looks as if perhaps she's just sitting, contemplating. So if you're in the Positivity Facebook group, I hope you've enjoyed this prompt, and I look forward to seeing what you create this time round. And if you're not, well, I hope you enjoyed this anyway. So as always, thank you for watching. Bye for now.